But that's why I like nature stuff. Are you back again? Right, come up. Come up. Right, there you go. Happy? Stop clip-clopping around so that people can't hear me talk. Right, sit down. Sit there, and then you're fine. You can stay. No, not my face. Right, hang on a minute. What is up, everyone? Hope you are all well. Now, thanks for all the cool comments in my last video with the scape of the chili rasbora tank. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for all the awesome comments. A few of you were asking about the other tanks I've got downstairs and if I've done an update on them recently, which I don't think I have. I scrolled back through. They've appeared, or they always appear in the backgrounds of my shots because I normally talk to you with a tank near me. I just quite like it. I quite like sitting next to the tank while I'm talking about fish keeping. So I thought I'd do an update on my 3 big tanks downstairs. So this one, which is the live bearer cube, we've got the axolotl tank over there, and then we've got the sort of tetra tank, which is turned into a few cichlids as well over behind you. So I thought I'd do an update on all of them. Now, the thing most of the time with updates on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, things like that, is that, well, I certainly do it, you clean them to within, like, perfection. Like, you just clean them until they're ready for filming them. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different, because I'm sure that all of you out there don't, like, you have day jobs, you have work. I'm the same. I don't always get to clean my aquariums to the point of them being pristine, polished works of art. So I thought I'd show you exactly what they're like. These guys are 2 days, I think, before normally a maintenance run on these. Yeah, about 2 days roughly. So normally I'd be doing water changes, filter cleans, all of that stuff in about a day to 2 days. So I thought I'd show you them before I actually touch them and give you a real view of what they are actually like. And talking about problems, like, you can probably see it, there's an orange thing up here. That was an issue, and we'll get into that in a minute. So this is one of the tanks that's had probably the most difficulties, I suppose. This is why it hasn't appeared as much on the channel as I would have normally done. But yeah, this one's had the most difficulties and the most changes, probably plant-wise, definitely. So this tank used to have all those massive stem plants in the back. I think I posted a few photos onto Instagram of like the water on top just being chocked full of stems and floating plants, and it looked amazing, and the fish loved it. Like, there were so many babies in there. But the problem was, with it growing over the top, all of this stuff in the foreground just wasn't getting any light. There's an ONF light on this tank, so it's a really powerful light, but just with that surface clogged up with stem plants, just wasn't getting through. And all the plants in the front, like all the grass plants, the Liliopsis, everything was really struggling. So we had to do a bit of a restructure on that. I ripped all the stems out of here, except for the little bit of Rotala that is hidden in the back there that has popped its head up, but I don't mind that because it's not as, well, yeah, it's not as violent as the limia that I had in there. That stuff was just horrendous for growth. Probably a good thing in some respects. If you want an easy plant, go for limia, but if you don't want to be cutting it back every 5 days, don't go for limia. So what we've swapped it for is we've swapped it for some Amazon swords, some Echinodorus, a few different species in there. There's a few different colour forms that are hopefully going to sort of add a bit of different textures and colours in there. And they're growing really, really well now. They've pretty much all converted over to submerged leaves, because a lot of the plants that you buy in the aquarium shops, they're all terrestrial leaves because they're all grown out of water. So they've all converted now, which is good. And they're all starting to, like, really perk up and look really, really nice. So that will just fill that background full of Echinodorus. The other plant change that I had majorly in here was when the grass plant at the front, the Liliopsis, got hammered by that lack of light for a few weeks, and me not being able to keep up on it. What happened with the Liliopsis is it just sort of, not withered away, but it got quite sparse. So what I've done is, even though it started to come back now that I've sort of cleared it off, I've actually plug planted some crypts in there, some Helanthium. That's probably it, actually, crypts and Helanthium, I think. Yeah, all the way through. So you're going to have this sort of carpet of grass with these pops of different coloured crypts and, yeah, different things, which I think will look quite nice. It will look a little bit different, and it fills in a few gaps. It was a few cuttings from another tank, so it was quite easy to plug them in there. Now, when I said this was the problematic tank, I'm going to list all these things that I've gone through in the last few weeks, but it's not, none of them are that bad, and I probably could have lived with all of them. It's just I wanted to change them and make them better. So the next problem that came when I took all that limia out, that stem plant, when I took all of that out, that was using up tons of nutrients, tons and tons of nutrients. And then when I removed that, there was nothing to use the nutrients up. Nothing was fast growing in here. So what happened was then we got a little spike of algae. And it was this horrible green hairy stuff that I've still got a few sprigs of now. Now I've been dosing the NT Labs liquid CO2. That's an algicide in a way, so it works and helps sort of defeat it. And the other thing that I found, weirdly, I was trying all sorts of different things, lowering the lighting, more water changes, all of that sort of stuff. The other thing that I found worked was Amano shrimp. Had a group of Amano shrimp in another tank, thought, you know what, I'll pop them in there. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And they worked. They started to eat it, and they've now got it down to stubs. The stubs are still there. I don't mind the stubs. It was when one day I came back, I think I'd been away for a week, and it was like probably about 6 to 8 inches long. And it was just flowing across the tank. And all the cherry shrimps were loving it. They were all in there eating it, but just not fast enough. But yeah, we've now got on top of the algae issue. The other issue that came with the algae was duckweed. So the duckweed, again, when that plant was removed, the duckweed just took all those nutrients and went, woohoo, and just spread. I did have some really nice red-rooted floater, but the duckweed got in amongst it, and it was just horrendous. So I'm actually in the process of getting rid of all the duckweed. You can see, yeah, just here, there's a little surface skimmer. It doesn't pull in that much duckweed, but it pulls in enough, and then I can net the rest out. So we are now back on top of this tank. The Amazon swords are growing well, the crypts have settled in well, the grass plant in the front here is coming back. I think give it another couple of weeks and this tank should have settled back into its own rhythm and should be back to where I want it. And it can appear in more videos. Fantastic. It's always one of those things that when you get one problem with the tank, you then get 2 and 3. And like I say, they're all minor inconveniences, but they were just all annoying at once. So when I was doing all of that, I was trying to get rid of the duckweed, and I'm trying to do this and trying to do that. That orange thing in the back that I showed you at the start, that was my surface skimmer that's rigged up to my Oase Biomaster thermo that runs this tank. What I'll do actually, just as a side note, because I always get comments on it, I'll try and drop into the comments what setup is on each tank, what lighting, what filters, what blah, 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 blah. I probably won't go majorly in depth on fish species and plant species because the list would be horrendously long. If there's any particular ones that you see, comment and let me know which ones you want to know. But I'll go for a generalised list of all of the plant species. But anyway, that surface skimmer was helping me with the duckweed. It was getting rid of it. Until one night, I thought, oh, I'll give it a clean and I'll try and move it into a better position. And it's all glass, and I snapped it. So that orange balloon that you see there is currently covering over the open filter inlet to the filter. There's obviously a grill at the bottom that you can't see that's letting the water in, but that was the surface skimmer area. I have got new ones on the way. They are ordered and they are en route, but it does mean I've got to change all the pipe work over on this filter, which is a pain in the backside. But hey, we live and we learn. Don't mess with things if they're not properly broken. If they just need a clean, give them a clean in situ. Don't try and rip them out at 9 o'clock at night and cause you all sorts of grief. But yeah, that's all of the major problems in here. Fish-wise, they've been doing really, really well. The guppies have been the main breeders in here. I've thinned them out a few times because they were getting absolutely just madness with the amount of babies that were in here. I haven't had as many swordtail babies as I'd hoped, but it's probably because it's a mixed tank and yeah, there's just too many mouths in there. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll sort of do some separating at some point in this tank. And we'll maybe try and breed the swordtail separately. What I've actually done with the swordtail is I've left my male in here, that black spotty Guenther male. And I've put some wild, they're not wild, they're the wild coloration green swordtail females in here with him. Obviously, all strains of swordtail are just crossbreeds of each other. Yes, he is a true, so I like to know that he is a true species, but as long as I don't mix the babies up from these batches, then it's absolutely fine. So what I've done is I've separated my females out from him, they've gone elsewhere, and then I've put these green swordtail females in with them. And yeah, they're all pregnant, they're all looking like they're about to drop, so I'll be interested to see what colours that throws out, whether they've got any spots or whether they just come out as green swordtails. We'll see what happens. There's a few other fish that have been added into here as well. If I can get shots of them, I will. We've got a little group of dwarf chain loaches in here, just because I saw them and I've not seen them in ages in the local shops, and they were a really good price. So I picked up a little group of them. There's the Trilineatus cories, or the false Julie cories are still in here, and they're doing well. The long-fin bristlenoses are in here. Like I say, they're all a little bit reclusive, and you don't always see them all, so I'll try and get shots to show you them all. And the other thing is we've had a real good population boom in cherry shrimp. I think partly because of that algae, and partly because of the wood, with all those nooks and crannies and crevices that they can get in amongst. They've done really well, and there's just loads and loads of babies hidden about, and they're now starting to get braver, and they're coming out. And yeah, everyone's doing really, really well. I'm really chuffed with this tank, hoping it's going to settle now and grow in. Oh, actually, I was just going to go over to the axolotl tank and start talking about that. Lastly, there's a plant I've put in here, which is over here, which I've never had any success with. It's Echinodorus, well, no, sorry. It was Echinodorus of it originally, so it was related to the Amazon sword family. That got split up, and it's now Helanthium. So same as that plant that I had carpeting in the 2 side-by-side comparison test tanks. So it's the same as that, but this one is called Vesuvius. I'm sure it's Vesuvius. And it comes out like a twisted corkscrew little spiky plant. Now, I never, ever, ever had any luck with it. Most of the time the suppliers send it to you and it's all the emerged growth, it's all the terrestrial growth, so it just, you put it into a tank and it just melts, and then the new leaves never came through for me. This one that I've put in here, I guess because of the decent ONF light that's running on here, the plant substrate that I've got in here, all the plant foods that I've been putting in, the liquid CO2 and the normal nutrient plant food, they're doing really, really well. And you can see the terrestrial leaves dying back now, so they're the brown ones that you've seen. But you can see those brand new, twisty, proper aquatic leaves coming through. So I'm hoping that they've settled and we can get them growing, because they will be awesome in Escape. I just removed a couple of the other crypt to give them space and to let them sort of take their own little space there. So I'm hoping that they're going to do well. But they'll be cool for another Escape. They'll definitely, if they get big in here, they're going to get ripped out of there and then put into a different Escape, most definitely. So the axolotls have settled in really, really well, doing well, eating well, buzzing about. Yeah, really happy in here. Obviously, this tank gets a lot more algae because they're all very nutrient-heavy feeders. They quite like a lot of food. And there's very few cleanup crew that I can put in here. Obviously, the axolotls would probably eat the majority of things. There are a few snails in here, and I'm going to try and build up a little colony of sort of smaller snails in here, essentially pest snails, to eat some of the algae. That'll just give me a helping hand, but it's not overly bad. There's a little bit of algae in a few places, but the plants have settled in mostly well. So the Anubiases and the Bucephalandras settled in absolutely lovely. The Vallis is just starting to send runners out, just starting to hit the surface, so I'm going to start removing some of those floating plants to get them out the way and give them a little bit more light. The only thing that hasn't done very well in here, weirdly, is the Java ferns. I'm going to have to remove them and replace them with something. I've been hoping, and I've been using some different things to try and get them back up to sort of, yeah, decentness, but they've not. They've just not settled really well. Maybe it's the cooler water. I'm not sure. They just have not liked it. But everything else has grown in and is sending out new leaves and is doing really, really well. So I'm really chuffed with how this tank's come out. Again, for me, algae's not an issue. As long as you're not overfeeding or got the lights on for too long, the algae just grows to a point and then stops. So, you know, you see a lot of the nature aquariums and the biotope aquariums and things like that. They have more algae in them than you would normally, but I quite like it. It just adds to the natural element. It's almost like they're in a lake or a pond or something like that. It's not too scapey. And that's, you know, ultimately axolotls, well, actually not my golden one, wherever he is at the moment. He definitely wouldn't survive in the wild, but the more sort of blacky grey ones, it just looks more natural for them, for me. I think it looks really cool. I'm not sure what plants I'm going to try in here next. Like I say, the Vallis has done really, really well in the back. It's just these Javas that I need to find a replacement for. In all honesty, it's probably the Anubiases. I'll probably pick up a few more Nanas or something like that and place them in here. They seem to have settled really, really well in here. So I'll probably just stick with them and keep growing them in here. I'm hoping next year for these guys to move back and have essentially an axolotl pond in the garage, but I want a bigger one and a better one, and it's always the way, isn't it? You want to do something bigger and better. So yeah, you'll have to watch this space on that. Once hopefully we get the garage insulated and yeah, it's all sound, then I can get these guys out there into a bigger pond. But we'll see what happens. We might need to revisit that when the time comes. I'm definitely not doing the garage work in the winter, in the cold and the wet. I forgot to say the tank that the Axolotl was in, that's a Fluval Shaker 345 in the grey, so that's what that tank is. It's got the original Fluval kit on it, it's got the Fluval external filter and the Fluval lighting, so yeah, that's that one over there. This one is the last big tank downstairs, so this is the Oase Scaperline 100, so it's like a scapery style tank, beveled corners and all that sort of stuff, really quite a nice build on it. So this is like my Wildscape Tetra tank that me and MD scaped, crikey, must be a year and a bit ago, just because I think Quinn was born around the same time that we've done this, so it must be about a year and a bit ago now. And yeah, just settled in really cool. Like the big crypt, like that crypt is just insane. And again, you can see some of the Anubias has a few bit of black spot algae on. Some of the crypts have a few bits of algae on them. But I don't worry about it too much because it just looks like a proper nature style aquarium. I love it. I think it's probably one of my favourites. We did have a recent issue where we had a plant back here that died back. It was the Crypt Balance, the crinkled leaf one. I've normally done really, really well with it. For some reason, it just didn't like that back corner. Not too sure why. It might not have enough lighting, to be fair, because I've only got one bar of lighting over this, and it's right on top of the aquarium. It's a Fluval Plant 3.0, so ideally I'd like to raise that up a little bit, but it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. We're going to have a look at sort of changing it maybe anyway. But yeah, the plants have settled really, really well. They're doing amazingly. Loads of different crypts, Anubias nana, the floating plants, the water lettuce has gone mad, and I have to keep pulling that out, and the roots, I think, are almost into the bottom of the aquarium now. Actually, that might be why that didn't do so well. Maybe that took a lot of the nutrients away from it, possibly. Maybe the Balance needs more nutrients than the other crypts. Who knows? But yeah, it's a cool tank. Everyone's growing up really well. If you're wondering what these little cubes are in the front, those cubes are actually ceramic shrimp homes, shrimp cubes, and they're going to be for a scape in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to do a little shrimp scape. Don't know what type of shrimp yet. I just want to incorporate some of those into it. I want to incorporate a bit of a man-made element into the natural element, I suppose it would be. So I just thought it'd be fun to include some of those ceramic cubes, maybe stack them up, rocks, wood round them, I don't know, not entirely sure. But I thought I'd chuck them in here because they're going to mature in here. That's the good thing, is they're going to get loads of bacteria and loads of growth on them. So when I chuck them into that shrimp tank, they're going to be pretty much mature and give the shrimp something to feed off of instantly. Excuse the bits in the water. As I said, this is a no holds barred video. So this is where I've just fed them to get some of the fish out and about at the front. And now the water's got a bit of particulate in it, but it will soon clear up. We've got the FX2 running on this tank, so yeah, that will soon pick up all these particles. Now the main addition for this tank, which was in a video quite some time ago now, were my boys and girls at the front here, which are my Festive Cichlids. They're just really colouring up nicely. That gold face, the black sort of, I don't know, what is that, diagonal, I suppose, line almost. Yeah, I'm just really chuffed. They have sort of paired up almost. There's a big male and another one that sort of sits together, and the other two sit together. They did get into a scuffle the other day, and one of them lost one of their ventral fins. Not all the way down to the bottom, luckily. It's only down to sort of, yeah, probably halfway. So it's growing back, and it is growing back quite nicely. So hopefully he'll be back to full fighting fitness soon. But they are just such a cool fish. A lot of people think they look like a cross between a discus and an angelfish sort of thing, and they are just cool. I can't, I sit here and I watch them, and I lose time with watching them. The main reason for setting this tank back up, way back, was mainly the Tetras, and they've done really well. So you can see the big boys here, those are the Kyburzi Tetra. So they're the chunkiest and they're the bosses of the tank pretty much. I think the Festives will eventually become the bosses, but the Kyburzi Tetra are definitely fast and a bit thuggish. So yeah, those guys are doing really, really well. We've then got the Rainbow Tetra, which are like a species of Emperor Tetra, and the males are outstanding. And then lastly, you've got the Red Stripe Tetra, which I can't remember their name. I'm sure they were Red Stripe Tetra. Put the name up on the screen for you. Again, chunky, golden, sort of yellowy coloration, that orange stripe through them. Yeah, just looking good. So they've all done really well. The Tetras have all grown up. Obviously, my Cardinals, they're in here. They weren't one of the rare Tetras that went in here, but I thought they would just be a nice little addition for a bit of colour and a bit of activity. And Quinn really likes them as well because they're bright. He can see them, and he sort of notices them. The first thing that he notices are those guys. So yeah, all the Tetras have done really, really well, and I'm really chuffed with how they've grown up. The other additions to this tank are all doing well, so you don't see them too often, but the clown plecos that went in there, I've seen the female a few times and she is really chunky, but I might see her once a month if I'm lucky, because of the amount of vegetation and that massive bit of bogwood that's in the back. She just hangs out in there with her, I think there's 2 males and a female, irritatingly, but yeah, it is what it is. Obviously the Ancistrus, so we've got the snow white Ancistrus growing up in here. We've definitely got a male, he's starting to get his beard to him. And then there's a couple of females or possibly subdominant males. So again, they're always out, to be honest. You can't miss them because of that white coloration. The Corydoras and the fish that Katie wanted, which is the South American bumblebees. If I can get them out and show you, I will. Sometimes they come out for catfish pellets. Most of the time that you sort of see a tail or a head skulking amongst all the plants and you're like, oh, there it is, and it's gone again, sort of thing. There's so much vegetation and so much hiding spaces in here. You see them every now and again, sort of thing. But I quite like that about the tank. I think, yeah, nature aquariums like that, where you've got that sort of loads of hiding spots and loads of things going on, I just find it more interesting. To be fair, when I said I had had troubles with a lot of the aquariums, it's not actually that bad, is it really? There's a touch of algae in the axolotl tank, which is to be expected. Just checking what my dog was doing. Yeah, that's to be expected. You know, axolotls are messy creatures. They're going to produce a lot of nutrients for algae to grow. Do you know what? I might get some fast-growing stem plants in that tank. See if I can get something like Limnophila growing in there. I know it's an annoying plant for how fast it grows, but it might use up the nutrients a bit quicker and it might end up getting rid of some of that algae. So yeah, I might try that in the future. That'll be a little change for the axolotl tank. This tank's been fine. Like I say, I like those nature style aquariums where it doesn't matter if the rock gets a bit of algae on it. Roma. But that's why I like nature style. Are you back again? Right, come up. Come up. Right, there you go. Happy? Stop clip-clopping around so that people can't hear me talk. Right, sit down. Sit there, and then you're fine. You can stay. No, not my face. Right, hang on a minute. Right, so as I was saying, that's why I like nature-style aquariums, because if the rocks get a little bit of algae on them, or there's a little bit of detritus, or a few dead leaves, then it's not too bad. I think that's the thing with like the botanicals as well. When you put the leaves in the bottom, I haven't put any leaves in here for a while actually. I might put some back in, but when you've got that breaking down, it sort of makes it look realistic. It makes it look really riverbed style, and then it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of hair algae or a little bit of this, because it just looks like a riverbed. And yeah, I think that's my favourite style of aquarium, to be honest. I don't like these overly manicured ones that as much as these. I find them, well, I find them hard work is probably why. But yeah, saying that, probably the next couple of tanks I want to do, one of them is definitely a highly manicured tank, because I haven't done one for quite some time. So yeah, I think that might be on the cards anyway. Hope that's been enough of a sort of rundown for you and a bit of a, I don't know what you'd call it, a showcase of the aquariums. Like I say, I wanted to show them before the maintenance sessions because I just think it's, well, I think it's more realistic. I think you guys can see that not everything is perfect, all right? Not everything is perfect. And there's always a little bit of algae and a little bit of detritus. And it's only when I need to show them off properly that I fully go through them and clean them. I'll see you in the next one. Let me know if there's any questions that you've got on these tanks. I'll try and answer them in the comments. So, right, Roma, are you going to sign off? No? Okay. See you in the... Oh, that was naughty. You nearly licked me in the mouth. That was naughty. I'll see you in the next one.